Despite fears, it may be a mutated variation of COVID-19.
What we have to evaluate over time is whether that virus has any difference in transmission or clinical severity, or whether there's any implication for diagnostics of vaccines.
Ryan suggests that there is still a long way away from making any determination of that kind. More than 250,000 Danes went into lockdown Friday in the northern region of the country due to the infection, leading to an order to kill millions of
minks. So you can scatter the virus everywhere.
Official data showed China's foreign trade sustained its upward momentum in October with notable growth and improved structure. The country's foreign trade expanded 4.6% year-on-year in October, with exports jumping 7.6% year-on-year and imports climbing 0.9% in yuan terms. In the first 10 months, China's foreign trade of goods totaled nearly 26 trillion yuan, up 1.1% year-on-year. Customs officials said the Association of Southeast Asian Nations remained China's largest trading partner during the period, followed by the European Union and the United States. They also said private companies played a significant role in propelling trade growth, with their foreign trade accounting for 46% of the country's total in the first 10 months of this year. Foreign brands are debuting their latest products at the ongoing China International Import Expo to expand their share in the Chinese market and search for potential cooperation opportunities. The third CIIE which opened in Shanghai on Thursday and lasts for...
Seriously.
You're listening to a flashback of Roundtable, an in-depth discussion on the hottest topics in China.
Using exploits in a box that a 6-year-old African child could hack. So don't English.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm He Yang, joined by Wai Ming and Huang Shan. Good as always to have you for this ride. We have some fascinating topics for discussion today and every day. On today's program, it's been a year since the ban on vaping products sold online in China. Has it curbed the use of e-cigarettes among consumers old and young? And e-commerce has been sweeping over the world of retail, and physical stores have felt the brunt. Today, we investigate independent bookstores in the UK. It may provide a roadmap for any retailer, independent or otherwise, into how to survive, even thrive against the competitive onslaught of e-commerce. You can find us on Apple Podcasts at Roundtable China. Subscribe, rate, and review us. And if you like us, tell a friend about us. We love that, because we need the numbers to look good for various reasons. It makes us happy, okay? So please do that and give us a 5-star review. But first, on today's Roundtable. It's been a year since China launched a nationwide ban on the sales and advertising of vaping products on the internet. The policy has caused a seismic shift on the business of e-cigarettes, making it an item that can only be sold in brick-and-mortar stores in China. Today, we take a look on the landscape of e-cigarette and vaping market here in this country. Well, let's take a step back first, if we may. Lai Ming, give us a review on the ban of online e-cigarette sales and promotion for the last year.
Well, the China Daily says, they said in 2019 that a government notice released in November the 1st stipulated that the State Tobacco Administration and another authority ordered makers and sellers of electronic cigarettes to shut down online shops and require the country's e-commerce market to remove all related promotions and products. And I think we covered this when the story broke out last year, because this is a topic that we feel personally invested in rather deeply. And I remember talking about how it was rampant, how the e-cigarette devices and the AMOS, is it how they call it, the refill commodities, they were rampant on a lot of these e-commerce platforms, so much so that in some cases they were appealing directly to teenagers, minors, and in the sense that they designed the products to look colorful and to look like attractive gadgets. And in some cases, they were disguised as a memory stick, so kids could bring them onto campus. And also, in some extreme cases, drinking bottles were designed where there's a gap that is extending from the bottom of the cup, and so there's a secret compartment where kids could keep their e-cigarettes there, so they can smoke them or vape them when they're on campus. So it was a rather bad situation that we had when we were talking about the span on the online sale of e-cigarettes.
And back then, I think there was also one confusion for people that was for consumers of various age groups. It was kind of marketed as an innocuous replacement of cigarettes. It was almost seen as
the healthy alternative to smoking.
And also, if these products come in these cute forms, or like what Liming described very vividly, that you would not associate them with traditional cigarettes. And also, if they come in, let's say, fruity flavors, then who would have thought that it's still a vice that's causing problems to our health if we consume too much of it? So that is the background of why there was a ban. There has been a ban for e-cigarettes sold online, and throughout the whole year till now, what have been the measures that's been carried out by these platforms to sort of, adhere to the ban?
I guess a ban is a ban, so I think these commodities will, in most cases, be removed from these platforms, although there's no guarantee that some retailers, they think of innovative ways to hide their products, to maybe change the description of the commodities on the e-commerce platforms, and even change the pictures. Only those who are familiar, who previously done business with these retailers, would know that there's a place where you can get e-cigarettes. But otherwise, I think we have mostly paid no attention to this issue, because I think the measures have taken an effect, and people are no longer talking about it, precisely because it's almost all out of the picture. I think one of the news reports that we are seeing right now is saying that almost 90% of the businesses that was in the making and selling of e-cigarettes were essentially wiped out from the business landscape.
So this also, in my opinion, just demonstrates how important it is to open the right sales portal for your product, because essentially with this ban, basically if you go to, let's say, the most popular and biggest online marketplace, Taobao, if you key in those relative words,
keywords,
you don't find any results. And then if the search doesn't lead you to these vendors, then the vendors have no business. And also on live stream platforms or short video streaming platforms, if you key in those words, nothing comes up. So again, it just shows that e-commerce used to be such an important avenue for e-cigarettes or vaping products to be just on display and sold, and that's just no longer there for them. So this would mean that these businesses would really need to sort of find new customers or find a new avenue to sell their stuff or whatnot. But before we get into that, I'd just like to get a little bit deeper to the ban itself.
Right.
The move is out of the consideration of protecting, is it certain consumer groups a bit more, or what do you think was the drive behind the ban?
I think because first you need to encourage more people to quit smoking, because anyway, smoking is not healthy for people, and many people has misunderstand the function of e-cigarettes, because I remember when e-cigarettes was first introduced to the country, many people believe it's just a very healthy replacement or substitute for cigarettes. And also that comes at a time when the government banned smoking in indoor venues. And many people think, oh, in this way, maybe I can use e-cigarettes, because back then there was still a blank space for the ban on e-cigarettes in indoor venues. And many people believe, oh, I can use this as a replacement and it will be better to my health.
$1 worth of needles a day.
Is out of the consideration of protecting, is it certain consumer groups a bit more, or what do you think was the drive behind the ban?
I think because first you need to encourage more people to quit smoking, because anyway, smoking is not healthy for people, and many people has misunderstand the function of e-cigarettes. Because I remember when e-cigarettes was first introduced to the country, many people believe it's just a very healthy replacement or substitute for cigarettes, and also that comes at a time when the government banned smoking in indoor venues. And many people think, oh, in this way, maybe I can use e-cigarettes, because back then there was still a blank space for the ban on e-cigarettes in indoor venues. And many people believe, oh, I can use this as a replacement and it will be better to my health. And the reason why we carry out this ban, first, we want to encourage less teenagers or young people to pick up smoking. On the other hand, I think with the information given by the government, and people start to realize e-cigarettes could be harmful to your health, and it's not a very healthy habit to vape all the time, because many e-cigarettes are very tricky. They're in the fruity flavor, very addictive. And for young people, it was kind of fashionable. It was a fashion trend to pick up vaping, and in some other countries, people may want to follow this trend. But now with the remove of all the products from the online shops, there are still some loopholes. For example, if you have a familiar provider or dealer of the e-cigarettes, you can add their WeChat or whatever, and then they can have a private sale of the e-cigarettes to you. But in general, I think the big e-commerce platforms have all removed the related products from the shelves. But at the same time, for these e-cigarette market or this providers, they're trying to move their sales channels offline, because you can still find some brick and mortar stores and selling the e-cigarettes. And another good thing of this ban, I think, is it just trying to drive away some small and medium e-cigarettes providers, because after this ban, only the big ones or with the qualified license to produce e-cigarettes, they can survive this ban. And for those smaller providers and with inferior qualities, they have been expelled out of this market. So maybe to some extent it's a good thing. So if you have to use e-cigarettes, at least it makes sure all the e-cigarettes you can get are the qualified ones, or the ones with qualified standard.
Another aspect of the ban was to not allow stores to sell e-cigarettes to minors. That obviously would have been an issue if the ban wasn't imposed on the e-commerce platforms, because we know how easy it is to spend money on e-commerce platforms, and how hard it is for the customer service to find out who you actually are. And basically, by removing them from the e-commerce platforms, the ban is essentially compelling people who have a demand for e-cigarettes to find brick and mortar stores. And we know that at these stores is so much easier for the shopkeepers to want to see somebody's ID and find out who you are, whether you are still a school student, whether you are still a minor, and so it's just making things easier for the supervision and for the protection of minors.
So definitely young people is a group of people, of consumers that are in mind when this policy was first drawn up. And also it was a few years of exponential growth of this rather novel vice that came to the scene back then. Apparently from the year 2015 to 2018, the market for vaping products doubled here in China. And then, you know, the ban was carried out later on. And one thing about vaping or e-cigarettes that is very different from traditional cigarettes is that with e-cigarettes, it does not contain any tobacco, but it contains a whole lot of nicotine, and that makes it also addictive, and that makes it also unhealthy. And why do you think that people sort of went for vaping in the first place?
Because it's, well, people go for vaping for various reasons. I mean, people like you and me who hate tobacco, who hate the resulting consequences to our health, but still can't resist the temptation to look cool, might look at vaping. I think of this as a healthy substitute, especially when they're being advertised to look at. And so, and then again, there are people who are looking to quit smoking the good old-fashioned tobacco, and they see vaping as a gateway to quitting, but more often than not, they don't arrive at actually quitting the habit. But nonetheless, I mean, that's just a result of careful advertising and people's desire to look cool and to indulge a little bit.
Right, and to look cool, I think that would mean possibly for certain age groups, people are maybe a little bit more impressionable to that kind of advertising or just that kind of message that somehow young people kind of just pick up, especially let's say if you go to a party and then other people are doing it, and then also, you know, with the very strict indoor smoking ban that's enforced in all parts of China, then maybe just going digital with the little device at hand might have seen as something of a cool aspect for some people.
Especially in the metropolitan setting, where when you're about to board a subway, you go through the security check. When you carry a lighter in your pocket, then more likely than not, you end up having to hand it over. So smoking good old-fashioned tobacco and cigarette is just not as convenient, you know, for people that are living in these areas that are commuting every day.
Well, you may disagree, but I'm just gonna say it. Smoking is not cool, in my opinion. Traditional cigarettes or e-cigarettes. I mean, the new cool should be a smart mind, a healthy heart, and also a muscular body, in my opinion. Well, okay, let's just say a toned body. Okay, that's, you know, take it back a notch. Yeah, for sure. So, how have you seen this ban has had an impact possibly on the overall marketplace?
I mean, the first thing that we noticed is actually there's no news here. I mean, it's only after when we see the first anniversary of the ban that we begin to talk about it and do a tally as to what kind of effect this ban has already had. Other than that, I mean, throughout the past year, we obviously COVID-19 was constantly stealing the thunder, but people everywhere was paying attention to that. But nonetheless, you don't see a lot of media reports on the business of vaping and also the consequences of vaping, which is a far cry from last year before COVID-19 hit. I mean, there was a series of reports on various platforms in the U.S. Where they were reporting mysterious lung infections, possibly resulting from vaping.
In the
and Wall Street Journal had a report on this. And it seems that some users of vaping or e-cigarettes were suffering from lung infections so bad that they relied on ECMO to survive. And so, but of course, COVID-19, when it arrived, people's attention were distracted. But nonetheless, the businesses within selling and making e-cigarettes, they took a toll. They were hit badly. if I remember the figure correctly, at the latest fundraising by Jules Labs, they were valued at about $36 billion US. But over the past year, I think the valuation has somewhat shrinked to about 13 billion US. So that shows a lot of the damage that, or the awareness that people are coming up with regard to the use of e-cigarettes and vaping.
Yeah, for me, I feel like the impact is that you can see it with your eyes, because whenever you're dining outside and you go to any shopping malls or you just walk in any public spaces, you can feel like fewer people are vaping. For me, I haven't seen many people just use e-cigarettes anymore, but ironically, many people go back to the traditional kind of cigarettes if they still have the need. And I would blame the e-cigarettes like a popular trend like several years ago for the advertisement, or of course, and also with the social influence. Like Ming and Huyan, you guys mentioned the younger generation, like the teenage minors. Well, they're at a stage like who are really feared, who has the severe fear of missing out. They will definitely follow the trend. If in the advertisement there's no specific clarification of the health concerns or risks of this kind of cigarette, they may mistake like it like as something really healthy and will cause no harm to their body. And I think another target customers of e-cigarettes besides the minors, I would say are female smokers, because I there's no gender bias here, because I think the market for male smokers is already kind of saturated. If you want to tap into some new potential customers, one is minors, the other one is female smokers, because e-cigarettes, no matter the design of the e-cigarette pipes or the vaping machine equipment, or I don't know how to call it, and also the smells, the flavors, I just target at female smokers to some extent. And people are living under huge pressure nowadays. If they want to find a kind of stimulus but with no health consequence, and maybe they would turn to e-cigarettes if they don't know the full story of what is included or what is the downside of health issues contained by smoking e-cigarettes. So I think now people are being better informed with the health concerns of e-cigarettes, and no one really want to risk their health and for just taking more e-cigarettes, especially under the coronavirus time. And people are more careful in taking care of their health situation, and wearing a mask is really not convenient to have e-cigarettes or whatever kind of cigarettes.
That's a really good point. And also, I remember earlier in the year there were a couple of studies about people smoking less because of COVID. Part of it would be inconvenience, right? Yeah. Just like Huangshan, what you just mentioned. And another part would be that
fear of death from COVID-19.
And just combining that that global pandemic with, smoking, that's like two lethal factors mixed together. Who wants to put yourself voluntarily in that position, right? But you can't really control or predict people's actions. Sometimes there's quite a far distance people would travel to get what they truly want at heart, or that craving that they have at heart met. So here I'm a little torn in the sense that this is not like one of those illegal drugs that's outright banned for good. This is, on the one hand, a thriving business for some. And on the other hand, we're looking out for young people who might fall to this vice that could be very difficult to get rid of later on when you decide differently. And also with e-cigarettes, it comes in this little gadget that looks so innocuous, and it's something that if you don't know better, if you haven't really done a little bit more research, then you don't know what this is really about, and that becomes an issue. Also, quality check can become an issue too, with some of the products on the marketplace that's available right now. It might not have passed the necessary quality checks, and just simply because of questionable sales avenues as such. But maybe in one sense, like Wai-Ming mentioned earlier, if now that these products are being sold in brick-and-mortar stores, then that might mean that the inspectors of government authorities can maybe go check them out a little bit easier than, let's say, online vendors as it used to be.
Well, the figure that I provided, I mean, about 90% of the businesses that were previously committed to making and selling e-cigarettes, they were essentially wiped out from the ban through last year. I mean, that should amount to something, because e-cigarette and vaping was an emerging market, and therefore a lot of businesses that previously wasn't necessarily focusing in this area was motivated and actually galvanized to invest their money in there. And famously, one company that was focused on producing air purifiers, actually the CEO of the company saw the opportunity and invested handsomely into the business. And I think that was a good example of how various businesses are seeing the opportunities there, but nonetheless, in the rush to seize the opportunity and grab a market share, they're not necessarily playing by the rules. And so the quality of the products are not the quality of the products is not guaranteed. And now that we have most of them wiped out and leaving only the stronger players there in the market, I mean, it's a major change. But one can assume that some kind of risk was somehow diffused from this early stage of competition.
Yeah, and it seems like the domestic market has been shrinking for these e-cigarettes and vaping products. But what about the world market? Because it's not like this is not something of a trend many countries are kind of picking up.
Before, America has seen a big market for e-cigarettes, but I think nowadays American people are really not in a mood to talk about e-cigarettes. There are more things to bother them at a moment. But I do feel like also the American government, they have warned people about the harmful influence of e-cigarettes, like some big brands like Jules or whatever. I think more people have been realized how harmful it is.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like FDA in the U.S. have issued a new announcement, I think earlier this year, talking about the harms of e-cigarettes. And of course, at the moment, it seems like there are some other bigger fishes to fry, so to speak. But this is something that's happening here, and we're pointing it to your attention. And we just like to reiterate again that smoking is bad. We don't endorse it. Period. You're listening to Roundtable. We will be back with more Roundtable discussion.
Looking for fashion? How about in the middle of that Roundtable? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable. Coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable. Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day.
Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal. How are you? What's on your mind? Let's have a heart-to-heart on Roundtable. Ask us anything. We'll help you answer it. Send a voice memo to ezfmroundtable@foxmail.com. We'll play your question on Roundtable, then talk through it on the live show. Take care. We can't wait for our heart-to-heart with you. You're listening to a flashback of Roundtable, an in-depth discussion on the hottest topics in China. You're listening to Roundtable with myself, He Yang, joined by Huangshan and Nyneteen. Coming up, we investigate the resurgence of independent bookstores in face of the 800-pound gorilla called Amazon in book selling in the UK. How did indie bookstores beat tech giant Amazon at the book-selling game? And airline meals have earned a pretty bad reputation. This is not something passengers of Daxing International Airport in Beijing need to put up with anymore. Now, flight passengers can pick up deliveries of their preferred dish at the gate and take it on board. That sounds pretty good. We'll get into that. If you're listening to our show on demand, you can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcast. And also, another way to get in contact with us is send us a voice memo or a voice question to ezfmroundtable@foxmail.com. We air your question first and then give you that reply on the live show. And now our roundtable as we continue our discussion. Independent bookstores have managed to be David to Amazon's Goliath in the UK, except that Amazon is the 800-pound gorilla. Just like David understood Goliath to be a formidable opponent, you too should accept that Amazon is a mammoth player in a lot of international markets. Today we bring you the tale of an underdog misfit winning a battle against a giant, and I'm just so excited uttering those words to you. It's been described as a revolutionary moment in the history of book selling. Guys, do you agree with what's going on here, mostly in the UK? Let's start from there.
And in the US as well. I mean, they first of all have done a good job in the US market, and then they thought about launching the same business in the UK, where initially they wanted to launch the business in the UK maybe by next year or the year after. But the good news is they've done a good job in the US, and now they already opened in the UK. And so I think, well, I have complicated views about this.
Okay.
I mean, for one thing, I think we should avoid antagonizing the tech companies in this regard. I mean, I know there are many things that they are falling short of, but in the business of selling books and bringing and delivering reading materials to hundreds of millions of people, I mean, Amazon has done a good job.
Right. Okay.
With his Kindle reader and the ease of buying books and delivering them to the reader devices. I mean, that's a good job. That's an honorable job that they're doing.
Okay. Let me. Can I just quickly, if I may, so humbly sort of set the table a little bit? So what we're talking about here is basically independent bookstores sort of join forces to back the launch of a new online retailer of book selling. Isn't it kind of just like what Amazon is? But it's a whole bunch of independent bookstores that have come together to present their products.
Well, the reason why I say I feel complicated about this story is, on the other hand, I have a preference for those niche independent bookstores. I mean, I made a point of going to these independent bookstores whenever I have a chance. Like when I was younger, when I had the time, every time I go to a different city here in China, I try and locate a used bookstore and try to find out whether there's any hidden treasure there. I end up spending at least half a day there.
Do you sell them back to a different bookstore?
But I don't know. I think, but I recognize that this is a niche demand. Not exactly what most people want.
Yeah.
Because these years I no longer make the point of going to these stores because they are really difficult to find, and they probably haven't survived throughout the years.
Yeah, so that's the situation here in China. And Liming, I can totally imagine and picture you being in one of those I call boutique bookstores and hunting for the treasure of your liking, and that's completely like something you would do.
But actually, used bookstores here in China, for instance, in Nanjing, in Suzhou, they're not like these boutique stores, like Stranded bookstore. on the Manhattan Island, that sort of thing. So where the decoration is pretty decent, and you could end up spending
like
a whole
bookshelves.
day there without feeling
Lots of bookshelves,
suffocated.
maybe a table with some
But
books
these
stacked up on it.
used
Just
bookstores
for
here in
pancakes
China,
instead of-
because people are no longer paying attention to them, sometimes they're so dusty, they're tucked away in such a small
You're
corner
supposed to blow the dust
that
off them first.
you end up having to spend hours looking for it.
Right, and sometimes
So
when
it's not ideal. The situation is not ideal.
It's
yeah,
dusty.
and when these old books are being sold in
These
like by the
bookshop
pounds,
owners
it
import
seems-
dust and
yeah,
put on those books
it
to
makes
get
me sort of
them look
question
interesting.
what is the value of knowledge anymore? But I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. And Huangshan, I know for a fact that you used to
I know they say
frequent
it that way in
independent
English all the time, but I hate
bookstores
to use that
Yeah.
when you were living in Sydney.
Yeah, I really appreciate this new platform, the online platform, because they're trying to gather together about all this, like struggling, I would say, indie bookstores and trying to offer them a possibility in sustaining their business. You know, for book lovers or a student like me who majored in publication, indie is like a magical world. You just appreciate all the ideas they're trying to help out this independent like bookstores. And when I check the function offered by this e-commerce platform, I really appreciate their recommendation mechanism in, for example, how they recommend a book to you in terms of the selection of books. It's not like Amazon, which is based on the algorithm, generated by maybe the big data or users experience, but they will really have some experts, or those experts in literature or in books. They're trying to give you a suggestion based on your interests. I really like this idea. And when I'm recalling like good old days when I was a student in Sydney, there's a very famous secondhand bookstore called like Ghost Book Arcade in Newtown, which is the street like behind my university, my campus. And sometimes we make a joke by saying it's the Dusty Star of the area, because you can see the bookstore owners, they're so passionate about maintaining their business. It's not for the business, but for their passion for secondhand books. You can find a large amount of used or out of print or rare books under just one roof. It's like a warehouse style. It's not delicate. You just walk in, you can see the graffiti on the wall. Everywhere is so messy, and there's no searching logic. You have to base on your luck to find your favorite book. And also, it's really messy everywhere. You may just, when you walk down the aisle, and you may brush past by stacks of books, and it's very crowded there, but I think it's very lovely that there's one space kept clear. It's by the window and caught the cat pathway. So no book can be stored there because that's for the cat. And also, I would say the owners, they were adorable, because for one of the group project, I had the privilege to interview one of them. The lady was so nice, and she explained her struggles in this business. And because today's topic, I check how this bookstore is running, like in what kind of conditions, and I realized that they were forced to change location, change to a smaller place back in 2018. One of the reasons, of course, the rising rents.
Yeah.
And this is like when people a decreasing demand in books, in magazines, or in all kinds of literatures. And I really like when I read that interview, and the lady said, books have little place in the lives of people moving to the city or moving to this area. And it seems like books have gone out of fashion, but I always remember the joy, the excitement this bookstore brought to me when I was a student. Because if you are a student major in publication, you need inspiration all the time. And when you visit a secondhand indie bookstores, you can get all kinds of materials. And they are not that commercial, because, if you went to a really commercial bookstore, the moment you walk in, the owner may expect you to buy some books. So sometimes for these ladies, you can just spend your whole afternoon in that bookstore without any purchases, and they still welcome you as a guest.
I like that so much, and you don't get any of that.
You walk right up to them, they know you're going to ask them.
Ordering online, shopping online.
You start looking at shelves,
Lyman's batting his eyelashes at me with his big eyes, and I know he has something else to say about this, but if I may, just continue a little longer on just going a little bit nostalgic about visiting a dusty physical bookstore. Just by listening to what Huang Shen you said brought me down memory lane. For me as well, it was in college. I guess after graduation, you just don't have that much time at hand
and passion. I would say.
I don't want to admit to that, but you're kind of right. Okay, so when I was going to school in London, there's this little area that's known for boutique bookstores. So some of these bookstores would sell like very valuable collectibles of really old editions of the Bible, for example, or other kinds of novels, and these things are collectibles that can sometimes end up in auction. Auction sort of settings and stuff. So that was definitely an interesting place to sort of explore, and it's in Covent Garden. And well, now when you talk about international travels, that's like, when is that going to happen? So maybe, when everything settles down with COVID-19, that is something that maybe one would like to check out if they're just wandering in London. And it's a beautiful place to go. There are a whole bunch of, well, actually, I kind of doubt that all of them are still open or managed to be still open after COVID-19. But it used to be definitely a tourist attraction for those who are into old books and literature, and just to sort of find out a little bit more about the old-fashioned literary world that we sort of struggle to hold on to the residual of whatever is left of that in today's world. So it was a lot of fun to hunt for old books. And these days, I guess there are still some people, and Lai Ming sort of admitted that he used to be one of these people who are into looking for old treasures of old books. And my dad happened to be one of these people. And even during the COVID-19 situation, when we're restricted more at home than going out to visit these places, he actually went online. So this is kind of like what this platform called Bookshop has been doing. It's gathered all these indie bookstores online and offered them a platform to sell their goods for people to just browse their stuff online, that kind of thing. My dad did something similar, but happened here in China, and he went on one of these old books of a website, and he purchased 2 books that he read as a young, upcoming college student.
Wow.
So that would be 30 or 40 years ago. Gosh, I'm giving his age away, but my dad's old, so that's okay, I guess.
Not that old.
Anyhow, so he bought these books that he 2 books that he read when he was a young guy, and he did not have the money to buy them and only got them from the library back then. And now he manages to buy them, and they're in God knows how many hand now, and it cost like 2 yuan.
Really?
Yeah, these are really old books. Yeah.
And how much does it cost to have them delivered?
I'm glad you asked, Lai Ming. It cost
I knew he was going to ask something.
20, at least 20, maybe more than 20 yuan to get the books. So I think there you see could be a little bit of a discrepancy, and also could be an obstacle of these businesses being able to continue to flourish when the delivery fee is so much more expensive than the book itself, because the book itself being secondhand or just floating around for too long. There's no way you can make it more expensive, right? Then, I mean, is this something that can continue to to float as a viable business model? What do you think about that?
I think there's emotional value to having them around. I mean, the reason why I spent time looking for a used bookstore everywhere I go was because I lost a volume of my grandpa's collection of The Journey to the West when I was in primary school. I lent it to somebody and they didn't return it, and you just hate them when they miss you, when they get rid of it, when they lose your books. And so it's always been my intention and my dream to find the same volume that my grandpa has repeatedly asked me about. And did you see my volume? I mean, volume 2, The Journey to the West? And he asked me many times, and I felt sorry for having lost the book. But nonetheless, I feel like this emotional part, the emotional value, is the only reason why these bookstores should exist. Because apart from the nostalgic side of me, I mean, the other side of me is cynical. And I don't see the point of having them around when I can easily find what I like to read online. So much easier, you know? I mean, bookstores are, brick and mortar bookstores are only for those who have no idea what they want to read.
Cover this in 2000.
You know, it's like shopping for women. They go around and they have no idea what they want to buy. So they spend time looking around. I'm the kind of reader who knows what he wants to read.
Right.
And I actually have a plan as to what I would like to read, and I simply don't have all the time to finish the book list, the reading list. So I think for an adult, he or she would already know what they would like to read.
Okay.
So the issue wouldn't be, you know, spending time in a brick and mortar store looking for something, and this might be interesting, that might be interesting, and you end up buying stuff you never read, and they just pile up.
Okay. Actually, Huangshan, do you have a response? Because I definitely have something to say here too.
You share first while I share first.
You go first, girl.
Okay.
Gosh, we're so polite.
Yeah. So for me, I really appreciate some entrepreneurs can come up with such innovative business model and to help those secondhand bookstores, independent ones who are surviving in the gap. But it's also sad to see the functions of brick and mortar bookstores nowadays in China. As Lai Ming mentioned, one function is for those readers who have no purpose, who has no idea what they want to read. And there's another function of such bookstores nowadays, especially in big cities or tourist cities. It's like it's a perfect site for taking Instagrammable photos. Nowadays, the brick and mortar is sad. You know, these bookstores, in order to attract more not really readers but visitors, they have to, you know, do promotions on social media. They have to make the design, their architectural style really eye-catching.
Instagrammable.
Yes, and they also need to integrate some maybe cafe service into this bookstore to give you
cats and dogs.
Yes, to give you a better, you know, visiting experience. This is their only way to attract people to visit the store. I don't think these people will actually purchase 1 or 2 books. And at the same time, for some real book lovers, like my dad, he only cares about the function. So he will go to this big e-commerce platforms to get the better deals. He just want to have more discounts to purchase a book he likes. He doesn't care about if it's from an indie secondhand bookstore or not. He just want a book with cheaper price. That's it. So I really appreciate this business model, but I don't know if it will have a rosy future or not, but I do hope to see we can have this kind of platform in China.
This is really interesting. And actually, the so-called resurgence of independent bookstores, it happened even before this bookshop platform has sort of arrived at the scene. I remember earlier this year or later on last year, we talked about in the US, indie bookstores doing pretty well. And the reasons why there are 2 that come to mind right now. One is the curation. That is, the bookstore owners, I mean, if they are still in the business, there's a pretty high probability that they are book lovers themselves and they study the stuff. So therefore, they have an eclectic collection that they would recommend to you if you walk through their door, and that's something of a unique selling point. And if they're like cute old ladies like Huang Shen you mentioned with that old bookstore in Sydney, then that's really, it could be a reason why people want to go. And secondly would be this, of course, was prior COVID-19. Independent bookstores have become a great place for the community to convene, for authors to hold talks, and also, just have a nice gathering place for the neighborhood folks, that kind of thing. So these were some selling points of independent bookstores in the UK and the US that became something of a draw for people to go to. But of course, COVID-19 has put a lot of this on halt, and we hope that the days when business can resume back to normal, or at least some level of normalcy, will happen sooner than later. But of course, that depends on the virus and not what we say here.
I realized my antipathy was directed at brick and mortar bookstores in general. But if I have to choose which one to keep, I would definitely try and keep the independent bookstores rather than one of those cafe and cats bookstores where you don't get anything meaningful to read, and all bestsellers. I mean, they don't mean anything to me.
Okay, but cats and dogs are always cute. I'm always siding with them. Blaming,
But that's not a bookstore.
He's very strict when it comes to reading and that kind of stuff. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, now flight passengers at Daxing International Airport in Beijing can pick up deliveries of their preferred dish at the gate. What is that about? Stick around, everybody, to find out more on that.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable, where East meets West, and understanding is the goal.
It's the hour of Roundtable with myself, He Yang, Lai Ming, and Huang Shen in the studio. Airline passengers will be able to have food delivered to their departure gate by restaurants located in Beijing Daxing International Airport from November the 4th, which is already passed. Which I just realized how time flies. Airport authorities said customers can order food from 21 restaurants at the airport via the airport's app or food delivery app, Ele.me. Choices include Chinese and Japanese meals, baked goods, and coffee, with more caterers expected to join the service. So, if I may ask, as a cave person out of us three, how exactly does this work? Do you need to sort of place the order on your smartphone before you arrive and wait and whatnot? Is it as simple as it sounds?
There's always going to be an app.
Right.
Yeah. Suffice to say, cave woman, you have to walk out of your cave to get delivery.
I need a little bit of hand-holding, people. I do.
Or install some satellite network outside your cave.
But gotta get 5G in your cave.
Oh, no. Okay, just tell me more and see if you can persuade me.
Well, you just order food on the way to the airport, like when you're doing the transit, is it? So when you're about to board a subway to the airport on your way, you can place the order on the application, and then you can pick up the order at your departure gate, and so almost seamless.
Do you think that this is like one of those very much, hailed for, people are so excited, new service that's available, or is it kind of just like meh, like we don't really necessarily need to get too overwhelmed about it?
I'm just gonna have to look at my option from the 21 restaurants listed in the app, because you know what the deal is with the bullet train here in China. A few years ago, they started allowing you guys to order food with the 1, 2, 3, or 6.cn platform, and the same thing as what we are seeing right now with the airport. You can place the order, and when you reach a certain station, For instance, when you're riding from Beijing to Shanghai and on the way, maybe in Jinan, you'll be able to pick up your order. But they have very few choices. I mean, the restaurants, they're not exactly ideal, and the food is barely presentable.
Well, I mean, you, if I may say, because I kind of, you're a picky eater. Like for people like me, pretty much eat anything, then
if you pretty much eat anything, why bother ordering food? I mean, there's food on the canteen train.
Or at the airport, or I mean, on the flight. If it's more than like 3 hours or so, you're guaranteed in-flight meal. What do you think, Huangshan?
I really appreciate this idea. It's very convenient, and I haven't been to Daxing Airport yet, but I can imagine this airport is very big. So sometimes if you want to go to your favorite restaurant in this terminal, it may involve lots of walks, and maybe you may be late to catch your flight. So if they offer the service, it's really convenient for many, people who fly with some certain airlines, but still not satisfied with the meals they offer. So I think
you'll never be satisfied with the meals they offer.
So if it has a really good performance, it's more like a gentle or subtle hint or implication of how bad the in-flight meals are. So I think they're trying to bring more convenience for the passengers. Why not?
Yeah, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
And we have talked about on the show before, I believe, of what an appalling experience it can be with the in-flight meals. And my worst experience, is it? Maybe I shouldn't disclose the name of the airline. But
did you want it?
It's a European airline. And it's part of Star Alliance. Anyhow, so they offered mashed potato and some other brownish. No, actually, I think it's, in my opinion, I only represent myself, okay? Some of the Chinese airlines are actually better, or maybe I just have the Chinese tongue, so I prefer the food a bit better on these flights than some mashed potato with goo on it. Ugh. Pull back to reality, please, Heyan. I'm kind of stuck in my memory right now. So yeah, this is now definitely a good thing for those who can, have a little bit more of an option of things that they actually want to eat. It could be KFC fried chicken or some Chinese dish that you want. The details are up for you to check out. That's it for today's Roundtable. Have a great day. We will see you again in the future.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing.
Roundtable. Connecting China and the world.
We bring you fun and timely discussions about what's affecting our lives everywhere, every day. Tune in to Roundtable, where the East meets the West, and understanding is the goal.
You're listening to China Plus Radio, connecting you with China and the world.
Now the news, I'm Wenjie. Chinese President Xi Jinping has called for advancing the high-quality construction of the Sichuan-Tibet Railway project. President Xi made the instruction ahead of the beginning of the construction of the Sichuan-Tibet Railway's Ya'an-Ningchi section on Sunday. He underlined the significance of the railway project for national unity, ethnic unity, stability in border areas, and economic and social development in Western China. The Chinese president also said the difficulty of construction is rare in the world due to topographic, geological, and climatic conditions along the railway. The 1,800-kilometer plus Sichuan-Tibet Railway links Chengdu and Lhasa with a design speed of around 200 kilometers per hour. It will be the second railway linking Tibet with other parts of the country. China and India have held the 8th round of commander-level meeting. The Chinese Defense Ministry says the two sides had a constructive exchange of views on disengagement along the line of actual control in the western sector of China-India border areas. The meeting ended up with both sides agreeing to earnestly implement the important consensus reached by the leaders of the two countries and ensure their frontline troops remain restrained. The two parties reiterated to maintain dialogue and communication through military and diplomatic channels so as to avoid misunderstanding and miscalculation, and push forward settlement of the issue. A Singaporean diplomat has reaffirmed the role of a major trade event in China for businesses from the Southeast Asian country. Singaporean ambassador to China, Nyneteen, made the remarks while inspecting the Singapore Food Exhibition Pavilion at the 3rd China International Import Expo.
Singapore has been actively supporting the Expo over the last 3 years. We believe that our participation here in this Expo, together with a number of other measures that we can take, will help to promote and strengthen the presence of Singapore companies here in China.
More than 40 Singaporean businesses have signed up for this year's Expo, 28 of which have participated in previous editions of the annual event. Joe Biden is pledging to be a president who seeks to unify and rebuild the backbone of the United States.
I pledge to be a president who seeks not to divide, but unify. Who doesn't see red states and blue states, only sees the United States.
The Democrat made the remarks during his first address as president-elect after being projected by multiple U.S. media outlets to be the winner of the 2020 election. Biden also touted the fact that he's won more votes than any presidential ticket in history, calling his win a convincing victory. Several world leaders have congratulated Democrat Joe Biden and his running mate, Kamala Harris, on their presidential election victory, even though the sitting president Donald Trump has yet to concede. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and British Prime Minister Boris Johnson have picked up the theme of climate change in congratulating Biden. Washington formally quit the Paris Accord on limiting greenhouse gas emissions on Wednesday, fulfilling a pledge by Trump to withdraw the U.S. from the pact. Biden has promised to rejoin the agreement if elected. The World Health Organization says it's looking at biosecurity around mink farms in countries around the world after Denmark ordered a national mink cull because of an outbreak of coronavirus infections in the animals. Executive Director Michael Ryan says there's currently no evidence the coronavirus variant found in Danish mink farms behaves differently, despite fears it may be a mutated variation of COVID-19.
What we have to evaluate over time is whether that virus has any difference in transmission or clinical severity, or whether there is any implication for diagnostics of vaccines.
Ryan suggests that there is still a long way away from making any determination of that kind. Official data showed China's foreign trade sustained its upward momentum in October with notable growth and improved structure. The country's foreign trade expanded 4.6% year-on-year in October, with exports jumping 7.6% year-on-year and imports climbing 0.9% in yuan terms. In the first 10 months, China's foreign trade of goods totaled nearly 26 trillion yuan, up 1.1% year-on-year. Customs officials said the Association of Southeast Asian Nations remained China's largest trading partner during the period, followed by the European Union and the United States. That's the news. I'm Wenji.
Would you leave it all behind to set your sights on new horizons?
跟其他人不一样的生活的方法。
Could you journey afar to embrace your field of dreams?
I've been in Shanghai for 18 years.
Hear it firsthand from those who took that leap in footprints.
You can succeed anywhere if you're good enough.
Where everyday people beat the odds and leave their mark. Footprints.
I think this is the first time a Chinese girl got in. I think before me there was a Japanese that has gone into the Royal Ballet School, but I think I'm the first Chinese ever got into the Royal Ballet School. They only select 10 girls and 10 boys every year. I was only 10 when I auditioned.
60-year-old Flora Chong Ling, a native of Hong Kong, was a dancing child prodigy and has become a successful ballerina, choreographer, and businesswoman. In the most recent years, she has spent much of her time cultivating dancing talent in Beijing. As a dance teacher, she is trying to establish a new genre of dancing art by integrating Tai Chi, a traditional Chinese martial art, with Western dancing techniques.
I'm in linkage and in research with Dr. Johan to help to develop a syllabus so we can use Tai Chi, modern, and ballet to integrate it. First of all, integrate it in all dance movements. Second is to start a graduation syllabus where you can do examination with this breathing dancing.
But how did Miss Chongling become a multi-talented artist herself? And what exactly are the dancing courses she offers?
It's like going practice.
This is a dancing school in Shunyi district, a northeast suburb of Beijing. 12-year-old Xiong Jiarui comes here 4 times a week to learn dance. Each time, the girl practices for 2 hours under the guidance of either Flora Zhongling or another teacher. This time, she has an extra privilege as both Chongling and a guest teacher from the United States are coaching her.
Carrie has so much potential. So you go for all the lines, all the emotions.
Chongling says the girl, also known as Carrie, has been making steady progress in both ballet and modern dance.
Carrie's been dancing for almost 4 or 5 years. Since a child, she's been doing baby classes, and then she did basic ballet training, and then she got into solo training, ballet. And now she's entering into modern. Modern people think is easy, but it's not. You need foundation of ballet, musicality, and muscle tone stretching training. Then you can do it. Because you need to do the structure and learn to relax. It takes a lot of muscles to do modern. Yeah, so she's now beginning to do modern solos.
While taking a break from her hard training, the student says Flora Chongling has given her considerate training every step of the way.
我学到了很多细节，就是感觉每个动作更认真一些了，能做到更到位一些。
I've learned many small details about dancing from Flora. For every movement in my dancing, I have to do it exactly under her guidance. I think Flora is different from my other dance teachers. She's more meticulous and stricter. For example, she will always point out movements that I haven't done very well, while other teachers may not.
The girl says she wants to be a professional dancer in the future. Her potential has also been seen by Timothy Fournier, who has just been tutoring her in modern dance.
She's doing great. Yeah, I think she's fabulous. She has great technique. She has kind of an open personality. I think she's ready to develop as a dancer.
Fournier is from the U.S. city of Boston. He's been invited by Chongling to teach at her dance school. A meeting at an international dance competition in New York years ago led to cooperation between the two dance artists.
We met in America. I was a judge at an international dance competition, and they were the only school from China there that year. It was the first time a school from China came. That competition started 40 years ago, so we met at, I think it was in New York at the end of the competition, and I've been living in Asia for over 10 years, so we thought it was like good fortune to meet and that we could come and do work together. So I started a few years ago coming to teach some of her like protege students, doing some like special choreography for them, and most of them went to America the following years and competed with their dances. So it's been fun.
Oh my God, open your legs like this.
Oh God, oh!
And the circulation.
Chongling says about 900 students are learning at her dance school in Beijing, which was founded a decade ago.
The school is a vocational school. We have ballet dancers. We have dancers that want to go under professional training to go and compete, or go to Royal Ballet School or American Dance Theater. They want to come here.
So materials preparations. So John said, we hope that by optimizing the approval process, consumers will be able to enjoy high-quality products from different countries at the fastest speed.
Right. So this is just something that's happening at the CIIE. So wonderful news for a lot of companies. And it seems like a lot of the companies are quite eager to come to this event because, China has effectively controlled the COVID-19 spread, and it's also playing a very important role in international innovation arena. So this time, the China International Import Expo is a great platform for companies for the world to demonstrate their newest products and services. For example, a health company, MEBO Group, that has headquarters both in China and the United States, participated in this event, and MEBO International, the US company of the MEBO Group, attended this event for the third time as a typical representative of regenerative medical technology. And according to president of the company, Xu Peng, because of the pandemic, most events that they used to attend regularly over the years have had to be held online this year. But CIIE is an exception, which means they can really bring their presence here. And this is going to help them find their target customers. And this is also a place where they can demonstrate to actually exhibitors and visitors from across the world about their products and services that they are trying to promote to the world. And also, I think, according to lots of companies there at the CIIE, this platform is providing an international platform for companies to demonstrate their products and services that can enhance people's welfare and livelihood. And especially, I mean, those companies from worldwide, they have brought their latest innovations to CIIE. I've checked some interesting products available, demonstrated on the venue. At the venue, it's very interesting. Each country has their own strength. I mean, some countries bring their own digital devices, all kinds of innovations, and some companies bring their farm produce and nutrients, all kinds of stuff you can think of. So according to some of the many of the international companies there, the CIIE has also demonstrated, China's commitment to opening up and multinationalism, which can bring about new growth impetus to the slowing world economy under the influence of this current pandemic. So, it's a great opportunity that lots of different companies from different parts of the world, they come to China to showcase to people that these are the products that we are trying to recommend to this large import market in China. And they are exhibiting the items on the expo, including all kinds of things like a dietary supplement for blood sugar balance, skincare products, and GI, regenerate capsules, all kinds of capsules, and some other healthcare products, which are quite popular in the United States and on Amazon. So basically speaking, you can see nearly more than 500 different brands, international brands there, and a lot of things to see. And at the same time, it's also a very interesting platform to showcase the Chinese products to the world, because you would think maybe only the international companies come to demonstrate their, showcase their products, but no. Lots of Chinese companies thinking, oh, this is a great platform. I wanna do vice versa kind of thing. So let's take advantage of this platform and display some of our own products. Maybe we can encounter some of the companies, CEOs, and make a deal. And when they import stuff into China, we want to export something out of China. And let's make a deal together. So some companies are doing this, like TCM prescriptions, and some of the TCM products, and all kinds of herb productions made in China, and lots of things from China. They're trying so hard to
display there and to introduce to people.
Yeah, definitely. This event is being held in China. So as the hosting country, of course, a lot of the business would like to make their presence there to show to the world, we've got great products here, and see if we can have any corporations or find our target customer groups there. Yeah, definitely, no one will miss that. And you've got to admit that over the past couple of years, Chinese companies have made headways in many, many areas, including technology, including the farm products, and also in terms of other areas. And we have made a lot of